Good evening, our friends, and welcome to another version of Abnormal Alabama. All three of us are here in Alabama, and they are abnormal.
We are
We
abnormal
are abnormal.
Alabamians.
So, to get this show started correct, let me do this. How did y'all sleep last night?
Well,
I
I
didn't
slept good. I slept good.
You
slept good
did
this
a
afternoon.
Yeah, she was concerned about storms, and there were people actually killed in a storm up in Portendale, and a lot of people injured. They,
Uh-huh.
they got some damage up there. Boy, you're not going to beat nature, are you?
Nope.
Nope.
It wins every time. So, you did a very interesting live stream for like 2.5 hours or something, and I and a couple of other people caught something interesting. Did you actually grab that clip and did do
Oh, I
anything
can
with it?
pull. Well, I can pull it up here. I can pull it up here if you want me to play it. Because I know
What
exactly.
what was that, Sunday night or what night was that?
It was Saturday night.
Saturday night, and I'll tell you what,
Yes.
folks, I tuned in, and his dolls were cutting up, and he's going to play you a clip here, and while you're doing that, I'm going to upload those photographs.
Okay. Well, here, let me pull up my YouTube here, and I'll go ahead and share that.
Not all 2.5 hours, please.
No, I'm going to go to the creepy noise that is the best part of that live feed is at the 55-minute point around in there. So I can
I
get
want,
it up here.
and you went back and heard it, didn't you?
Yeah.
That was not your ice maker or any.
No. And right before you hear that, you hear what sounds like glasses tinking together.
Oh, they were toasting each other. The dolls were having a late New Year's, I guess.
I guess so. But I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here in just a second. I'm going to find the exact spot.
Okay. So while he's doing, well,
All
no, I
right.
don't want to. Got it.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, folks,
All
pay
right.
close attention. Don't tell them where it is. Just let people hear it for themselves,
Yes.
and then we'll talk about it. How's that?
Okay. All right. Now, what is
All
going on
right.
here? Is it sharing my screen?
Uh, nope.
Here, let me try that again. This is weird.
You have an
This is
issue. You might need to sign off and sign back on. See, when she came on, it was echoing like crazy, and now yours is. I think we got a poltergeist tonight.
we might for some reason. Wait. Let me try this. Nope, no, that ain't gonna work. Yeah, let me try to log out and log back in.
Okay, so
Here, let's see
everybody
if that
say good night, Kevin.
works. I'll be back.
Thanks for the warning. All right. So I'm sure that you've got some kind of sleep paralysis story of your own to share.
I get sleep paralysis all the time. um,
You ever been
I
woke
hear
up
a
by
lot
that
of
one?
yes, I have a bunch of times. I have right before I go to sleep in that between sleep and awake state, I
Hmm.
hear a lot of chanting and a lot of strange language.
Are you a monk
Um,
chanting?
no, no, it's not that kind of chanting. It's hard to
Oh,
describe.
satanic chanting.
Yeah, and that's what I would assume it is. It happens a lot right between that sleep and awake period.
Sleep and awake.
Yeah.
Sleep and awake. Well, I never didn't think about it. Of course, I captured, and I think I've shared that. I don't have it up here now, but the Shadow Man. Some people call it the Hat Man. And then, of course, I've heard of the old hag. And here is, let's see. Are you back?
Yeah.
Anything change?
Still don't have the menu, and it's not letting me share the screen here.
Are you kidding?
Let me see. No, it puts it down there like it's a guest waiting in the bottom
There it is.
down there.
Yeah, but it's not letting you.
It's not letting me
Okay,
do it.
I've got it up there now.
This is bizarre.
I just gave me
All right.
total control. We got the audio there.
Yeah.
Now what'd you do?
I'm still here.
Yeah, but your screen, the shared screen vanished.
What? I didn't do
Is this
anything.
Are we sure it's not Monday?
No, it's
I
Tuesday.
don't know.
This is when we do this, Tuesday.
This is
I did
bizarre.
get out and about today.
Okay, so let's make it very simple. On Facebook and in the comments here, just give the link to the live stream. Oh, that we'll try it again. Okay.
All right. Now I'm going back. Now, is it still there?
Yes. Still there.
Okay. Now there's the tinkling sound. Let me go back.
Yeah, do that again. I thought that was.
Let me find it. I went back too far. Dadgummit.
Yeah.
All right, let me go. There it is.
I heard it.
Let me play it again.
You need to grab that out of there and enhance that a little bit. But that did sound like they were toasting or something. Or
yeah. Okay, there's the tinkle.
Mhm.
And now.
That was like. Are you kidding? Do that again.
Yeah, here it comes.
That is.
I don't know what that is. Let me do it one more time here.
It sounds like a child. Do it again. At the very end of it, it sounds like it transforms into a child trying to talk.
All right, let's let it get back. Uh-oh. Here we go.
You hear the very tail end of it sounds like a little. You hear the very tail end of it sounds like it's morphing into a child's voice.
Yeah, let me go back and what?
It's very interesting.
It's like it's trying to come through. You kind of hear that child's tone in there, like it's
Just
trying to come through.
Bit.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
It's not profound, but I mean, you know.
I think that scared the hell out of me watching it on my live. I heard it on my live, my what you call it, my smart TV, and man.
So where were you when this was taking place? When you were doing this?
I was on the other end of the house.
And did you have the door closed? Was your cat in there, or was it closed up?
Yeah, my door was closed. My cat was in here on this side of the house with me, and so there was nobody in there, and the ice maker would not have made that kind of a noise.
Oh no, but somewhere else in there you're going to hear some more noises. So you need to review that and cut it down. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to listen to the whole. Yeah.
Well, I know about 20 minutes in, there was a loud thump, like somebody knocked against the door. And what's creepy is the camera was right behind the camera is the closet door. Is the closet door. So I'm wondering if it was something in there banging on the door.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, you can only see in front of the camera there, but it didn't, those
Yeah,
noises did not sound like, if you had that door closed, which you say you did, so your
yeah,
camera setup was in a room by itself with the door closed, those noises did not sound like they were coming from without the room. They were within the room,
yes.
for me. So
So,
that's very,
Kevin, was it the closet that goes to the attic?
No, it's my bedroom closet.
Okay.
The attic door is way in. There's a walk-in door way in here in the den, and then there's a crawl-through space in the ceiling over on the other side of the house, but not in my bedroom.
all right. Well, let's get into what we're talking about this evening. And we're talking about sleep paralysis. During last week's show, I don't remember what exactly got us into this conversation, but we decided that we're going to go this route tonight. So I'm going to give it, before Kevin gets into all these real wild stories, and I think Catherine's even got some personal story to add to it. Let me give a little introduction so we're all on the same page as to what sleep paralysis is. It's an unusual condition and it's called sleep paralysis, and it's been frightening people for centuries. Um, Cultural explanations that try to account for the terrifying experience of waking up feeling paralyzed range from alien abductions to strange demons creeping into people's bedrooms and sitting on their chest. Together, the stories show how a single biological phenomenon, there's Kevin's word, phenomena,
Phenomenon.
to give a little understanding there. And this ties in, interestingly enough, um, hold on one second.
Oh,
Take over for 1 second here.
okay.
So, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and tell a story?
Well, I don't know if I can tell it that quick. Uh, well, actually, I do have a story on here I can go ahead and share. That was short. That'll kind of whet our appetites, but I don't know if I can get it pulled up before he's able to come back on. Had
All
one
right.
of the, oh, there he is.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead for that. And Kevin, go ahead and share a story. Then I'm going to give in a minute. I've got to take care of something. It never fails.
Okay,
But I shall return. Did you get your story up?
okay. Yeah, I've got it up here.
Okay. All right. I'll be right back.
All
All
right.
right.
These are some of the scariest sleep paralysis stories that we were able to find out here. And sleep paralysis, there's another explanation. Sleep paralysis is when your mind is awake, but your body is still asleep. It is a quite common phenomenon that troubles a lot of us.
Phenomenon.
The phenomenon, there it is again.
Phenomenon.
I'm wondering, am I reading the same thing he just read? The common features including a feeling of being paralyzed while lying in bed. Usually auditory and visual hallucinations also occur. Some people see human-like figures and even creatures, and they will hear voices or strange, unsettling sounds. And some wonder if there's not a paranormal connection here, if there's not perhaps or what this thing is doing is giving us a look into the spirit realm of good and evil spirits when that happens. That's not outside the realm of possibilities.
It's possible.
But here's a couple of good ones to whet our appetite. A lot of these come from Reddit, people telling their real life experiences. Here's one: footsteps in the hallway. One night I woke up to what I thought was the sound of footsteps in my hallway. I was laying on my back, which immediately made me confused and a bit nervous because I never sleep on my back. I tried to turn my head to see where the sound was coming from, but I could not move at all. The panic set in, and I heard the source of the footsteps come into the room. Now, although I could not see the figure, I knew it was a home invader. I could feel him standing on the opposite side of the bed, silently staring down on me. He had some sort of weapon in his right hand. I believe it was a knife. I swear my heart has never dropped and raced like that in my entire life. I kept trying and trying to move or scream, but I was frozen in place. It felt like hours. So that's a good example there of sleep paralysis, of the
Well,
creepiness, the scare factor behind it.
Yeah. Oh, let me tie in. And are any of your stories got the old hag in it?
That was one. Well, I have my own old hag story, and then
Okay. Well, let me give a little bit more background since I had got interrupted there for a second. The night
okay,
hag, it's called the night hag or the old hag, refers to supernatural creatures that paralyzes a sleeping person. Upon wakening, people describe the feeling or vision of an entity sitting on their chest or at the foot of their bed, just like some of the story that Kevin just told. Somebody's phone is vibrating. the
it's
word
mine.
The word nightmare was used to describe this experience and other night terrors before the word received its modern and general meaning. The inability to move was widely considered the work of demons, and more specifically, incubi, which we can talk about incubus and succubus, which were thought to sit on the chest of sleepers. In Old English, the name for these beings was mare, hence the name nightmare. So, did you know where nightmare came from? Folklore beliefs in places such as Newfoundland in the U.S. describe the negative shadow figure of an old woman who enters their room and sits on their chest of her sleeping target. The victim usually wakes with a feeling of terror, difficulty breathing, paralysis. The person is forced to lay there, unable to move until she releases them from her grip. In
oh,
other cultures, it is believed that the hag is a demon summoned by the black magic of someone hurt or the actions of a jealous person. It's also thought to be a punishment for one who has wronged another and are then terrified by their own reflection in their slumber. Other speculations are that homes and places themselves are haunted by evil spirits that feed off of their energy of their living host. No matter what your beliefs are, there's a wide range of these types of experiences crossing continents and times. In Brazil, there's the legend about a mythical being called a pisaderia, she who steps. She is described as a tall, skinny old woman with long, dirty nails, a long nose, and glowing red eyes. Her story is that she lives over the roofs, waiting to step on the chest of those who sleep with a full stomach. In Japan, sleep paralysis is called kanashibari. The term is rooted in Buddhism. Long ago, it was believed that Buddhist monks could use magic to paralyze others. In China, it has been labeled ghost oppression. Images depicting such experience date back as early as the 18th century and span across the globe. So it's not unique just to one culture. It is wide ranged. And now I know that Kevin has more stories, and I think both of you guys have personal stories. So why don't you tell your old hag story, and then Catherine, be ready.
you know,
You're
I
next.
kind of have I have the scientific reason behind
Oh,
this.
don't do the scientific reason yet. Don't take the fun out of it.
I was playing Frank tonight. I'm sorry.
ah,
Uh,
you
fi-
skeptic.
yeah, Frank got fired for a reason. All
I
right,
went back to school.
tell your stories. I've got to step away for a moment, but tell your stories, and I'll be back
Okay.
shortly.
You want me to go ahead?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. Now that's kind of creepy the way he described the hag there, because that's right down to a T what I experienced when I was there. I mean, when I was at that old neighborhood I grew up in that house that was already haunted, and it might have been what stirred this up. But I had when I guess I was kindergarten, first grade, second grade age, right during those times, I had these recurring dreams about a tall, crazy-looking hag woman. She looked real old, had the scraggly black hair and long nose, and she had those long claws on her fingers. And I would think I was awake, and maybe I was and didn't know it, but I would think I was awake, but it was actually, I guess, a nightmare or sleep paralysis, one or the other. But I could not move out of the bed. The door to the closet would start creaking open in my bedroom, and out came that hag with her fingers up. And she come toward the bed, and I could not move. You know, she was slow moving. There'd been plenty of time to dive out of the bed and run to my parents' room. But I was there physically in my bedroom, or so I thought. Maybe it wasn't just nightmares, but she would come and grab my legs. She started tickling me with those claws, and she grabbed my legs and start pulling me, drag me out of bed. Still, I'm frozen. I can't move. Pulls me into the closet, and the door shuts, and then I wake up and I'm in bed. Well, that happened just about night after night. Then the dreams intensified, where I was not in my bedroom, but I was walking along in a store somewhere with my mom shopping, and she'd be there. We were talking about something, and then I would look away and look back, and all of a sudden, it's not her. It's the hag with those claws ready to go. And she would just do all kinds of creepy things. She got creative in those dreams. Like one night while she was hee-heeing, her face crumbled like flour or powder and just was falling off, but she was with those claws. And I started calling her, and being the little kid I was, and because she made that noise, I started calling her hee-hee, which I get teased about nowadays, but hee-hee, that was my hag. That went on for at least a few years at least. It got to where I thought she was in reality. Like we'd be visiting a friend's house, and on a Friday night, we oftentimes visited a family friend who had children, or they'd come to our house. But at their house, they had this long hallway with a hardwood floor and dark wall paneling. So it was a dark hallway if there wasn't enough light. And they'd be in the front of the house, and I needed to go to the bathroom. I'd go and I'd see that long, dark hallway, and I could swear, I said, I just know down there at the end somewhere, hee is hiding in one of those doors, ready to jump out. So I was terrified. Of course, my family, you're just dreaming. It's just nightmares. But that ended. I haven't had any kind of dream about that hag since I was probably 7 years old. That terrified the crap out of me.
Well, I bet it did.
Yeah.
I was a young adult in my early 20s, living in Vestavia Hills. I had my own house there, and I lived by myself. And a lady had died in my house that lived there before me, and I never was scared really by her, but she would walk down my halls at night, and she would wear this floppy hat, and she always had this funny shuffle that old people have. I don't guess she ever scared me, but here lately I've been having a lot of that in between sleep is what I call it, and hearing a lot of strange noises. I mean, it's like, yeah, like that breathing.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a language, but I can't recognize the language. Yeah, something similar to that. Yep. Yep. And now the shadow man, one morning I was getting up to go to a wedding, and it was still dark outside, and I came and I got in my car, and as I was getting in the car, across my vision walks the shadow man. Well, me being the crazy person that I am, it's like really early in the morning, it's still dark. I walk my butt over there and say, I'm not scared of you. And I've not seen him but once or twice since then, but no, I'm not scared of him. Because, you know, I'm out here outside by myself in the woods.
Do you see me behind you? Are you afraid yet?
No,
No.
no, I'm more scared of people than I am of spirits.
So, this, I guess you both are familiar with the incubus and succubus.
Yes, I've heard of
I
those.
am.
Yeah. Well, I know Kevin is very familiar with a succubus because
Oh, come on.
that's, that's a, you know, what you got
Yeah.
all those spirit dolls. I'm sure there's a succubus in his house that visits him on occasion. So the reality is that ties in with this old hag. What can you imagine? Oh, he left. I chased him away.
I
Where
look.
did he, where did he go? He went
I don't know
dead.
where he went.
Well, an incubus and a succubus, if for those that don't know, is a succubus. He came back. Yeah, you couldn't handle it. A dog talk could.
Ah, not
We thought we
Your
lost you,
booting
Kevin.
me out. It's
your
trying to boot
your
me out to log in and all this stuff.
your virgin ears.
I
Okay.
think when I logged out and when I logged in Saturday night, I lost control, whatever control I had here. And
What about on your cell phone there, Miss Catherine? Do you have the banners and all that stuff on your phone anywhere?
I don't know if I do or not. I can't see it that far off without
Oh, okay.
knocking it down.
I'm going to, out of curiosity. But anyway, succubus and incubus. Incubus would be the male spirit that would come and visit the female, unless they're gay, I guess. Um, and then the succubus would be a female. Some portray the succubus as being a very attractive creature, and some portray the succubus as being some evil old hag type scary creature. But they kind of fall into this sleep paralysis, and what we're talking about here tonight. So, Kevin, at 30 minutes into the show, do you have any other stories besides your own?
If y'all are
of
really quiet,
course, I like
if
this
you
one.
I
I
got
could.
some. I'm sorry, Kevin. I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you guys are really quiet, you might be able to hear the drums in the background. I heard them just a minute ago. Like I'm literally sitting in the woods. But when I hear them again, I'll throw my hand up or something.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this one is called I Could Hear It Breathing. I heard footsteps coming up the stairs of the attic, which ends up right beside my bed. I couldn't see anyone coming up, though. Suddenly, I realized I saw something in the corner of my peripheral vision, and I could hear it breathing. When I slowly rolled my eyes to the side, I saw the small head of a white faced troll grinning and staring at me. I panicked, and suddenly all the phones in the house started ringing. This ringing sound built and built louder and louder. It scared me, and I knew for sure that I had permanent tinnitus. After this short moment, which felt like a really long time, I had enough to locate and enough strength to locate and lift my arm. This immediately stopped all the hallucinations, and I woke up without tinnitus. If you wonder what tinnitus is, that's the ringing you hear in your ears. That's continuous.
Continuous tinnitus. I just
Yep.
did that. I thought, well, let me get on with my phone, and you're right. They must have changed it. I don't know if there's a way to give permissions um, Let me see.
Maybe it's that code or something. Well, I don't
No, I do it the same
think
way
you
we've
can.
always done it.
Yeah, the code's like if somebody else, I guess, logs in. That's
So
weird.
I know because up to this point you could do that, but I guess now that just you're a guest. You're only
Well,
a guest, just a
well,
guest.
I'd say, nah, I better not
Uh,
do
I saw
that.
it.
I'm just a
Typical,
guess.
typical
Typical.
Christian, I am.
Hey.
You still. All right, this is Abnormal Alabama. We're talking about sleep paralysis and the old hag and much, much more. The incubi and the succubi and the Kevin by all
Killing
here
by.
tonight. And they're way up in the distance. It's Miss Catherine in the dark. Way back there. She's the spooky one. Ah.
So he
I mean,
didn't hear
it's
my.
awesome that I get to do this show in the woods in the middle of nowhere.
That's perfect. So the next question is, folks, have you been to myhauntedDolls.com and have you seen any of Kevin's plethora of books that he has for sale?
If
So
you haven't, you better.
what kind of books you got for sale?
I got creepy, scary, ghosty books. I got nonfiction books and novels and even a children's book out there. So I got a little bit of everything.
All right, what's your latest
Go
one?
check that out. My Haunted Collection, The Dark Side. The one that's up there. My Haunted Collection, The Dark Side.
And then you had one right before that about some Crimson Tide something.
It was Crimson the Blood Painting, a novel about an actual haunted painting in my collection from Salem, Massachusetts. And that's also an audio book.
Who is that?
I don't have a name for that doll. That's that creepy-eyed doll that made me think of the movie It with Pennywise the Clown and that little boy with the rain slicker.
Look at
That's my doll prop from Spirit Halloween. Just a prop there.
Just a propping it up there.
Just a propping it up there. There we go.
Shh, I can hear the drums again. And they stop. Every time I try to get you guys to listen to them, they stop.
Okay, next time, don't say anything. Just give us a thumbs up or something that we can see.
Okay.
Maybe the spirits are listening to you, and you need to give us a subtle, like, ah. All right. Okay, and also, if you haven't, and you don't know what that is, then your wishes are not coming true. Started this back in August, and literally this has gone international. Greece, Germany, Canada, Mexico, Australia, the UK. I've got two going out to the UK right now. Literally all around Rome, Italy. You name it. I think the one in Rome, Italy is going to the Pope because the rosary quit working properly. They needed a stroke or something to go with. So go to www. Let's see. Let me find the link and I'll put it up here, right here, right there. So there it is. So you can go to the link and get your own very own wishing machine, which you should do because the wishing machine works real good if you use it properly and you order a book, one of Kevin's books from his website. Your wish will come true because he will personally autograph that book for you. And I can't think of any greater signature you would ever want in your life than the future Stephen King of dolls.
The future Stephen King of dolls.
So which one of you guys has got the which one of you guys has the next story for us?
Go for it, Kevin.
He can't see.
Got a what? You
next story.
No, I can
Hello?
see. I can't hear. Okay, you were breaking up a little bit. I can hear you now.
Okay.
I've got this story. If you want to throw up that Freddy Krueger picture, I've got this here story. And a lot of people don't know about this, or you might maybe you've heard of it before. But if you grew up in the '80s, or even if you didn't, if you're just a horror fan, I'm sure you've heard of Freddy Krueger along the way.
Never have.
And but what you may not have known is that film, A Nightmare on Elm Street, that features Freddy Krueger, was actually inspired by a true event. As is told here in this article, the syndrome that inspired Freddy Krueger afflicted a very specific group of people. How a terrifying wave of unexplained deaths led to A Nightmare on Elm Street. So in 1984, Wes Craven introduced the world to one of the most iconic horror films of all time, A Nightmare on Elm Street. His creation of Freddy Krueger as a demon who kills teens in their dreams was heinous, terrifying, and literally ripped from the headlines. Craven found inspiration for the landmark horror film through an article that was published in the LA Times. He recounted the story of a refugee child from the Cambodian genocide who was terrified to sleep for fear that he would be attacked in his dreams and never wake up. When he finally fell asleep, his parents thought this crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night, Craven told the Vulture in an interview. By the time they got to him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare. The story that Craven described wasn't an isolated incident. Dozens of Southeast Asian refugees in America died for unknown reasons in their sleep during the 1980s. The mysterious deaths were usually among young men in their 20s and 30s from the Hmong ethnicity. The people suffering from this puzzling ailment were typically refugees from Laos, a small landlocked country in Southeast Asia. The Hmong minority group had been persecuted in Laos after they were recruited by the CIA to fight North Vietnamese soldiers during the Vietnam War. More than 30,000 Hmong soldiers helped the U.S. fight communism in the Northern Highlands where they lived, but died at a rate 10 times higher than their American counterparts. In 1975, the Vietnam War ended and Laos became a communist country. The new leadership there viewed the Hmong as traitors for their work with the United States. Many survivors from the war fled from their homes after the war to become refugees in Thailand or the U.S. It was a forced migration under the most trying of conditions. Dr. Katharia associate professor at UC Berkeley, was quoted to say, "It was a very long journey and a very treacherous journey. The group's troubles did not end with the resettlement, as they often remained traumatized by their experiences back home. Quote, these are people who had endured a great deal and had been subjected to a great deal," Professor says. Hmong refugees in the U.S. suffer from high rates of poverty, and soon a mysterious ailment seemed to befall them. Like Freddy Krueger's targets in A Nightmare on Elm Street, many of the afflicted were teenagers and young men. Headlines such as "Mysterious Fatal Malady Striking Hmong Men" and "Night Deaths of Asian Men Unexplained" ran in the LA Times throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s, any of which could have sparked Wes Craven's imagination. One article in 1981 describes the scene of a Laotian refugee who relocated to the U.S. from a refugee camp in Thailand with his family. But shortly after settling in his new country, 47-year-old Yong Ling Tao died in his sleep with his wife beside him in tears. He was the fourth Hmong man to die while sleeping in 9 months, and 13th nocturnal Hmong death recorded since 1978, according to the article. Investigators could not find any medical explanation for the deaths, but many community members attributed the deaths to chemical nerve agents that refugee soldiers of the Vietnam War would have been exposed to. That theory was not supported by doctors, however. Quote, nerve gas doesn't act this way. There's no evidence, said Dr. Larry Luman, county medical examiner in the LA Times article. Secondly, if it was nerve gas, why does it affect only males? Why only during the night? Other Hmong believed that they were being punished by the spirits of their ancestors for leaving their homeland. Their anxiety centered around the inability to do right by your ancestral spirits because you're not there, or because you don't have the right things to perform the right rituals, said Dr. I don't think that for many of the Hmong of that generation, the traditional explanation remains salient, if not more salient, than explanations related to cardiovascular problems. The fatal ailment, later classified as sudden unexplained nocturnal death syndrome, has been investigated by the Center for Disease Control at length. However, the wave of sons death, as they're called, among Southeast Asians, particularly the Hmong group, is still unexplained. Dr. suggests the years of stress that the Hmong endured could be a factor in the disease. Was that a reflection of what kind of stressors that come with being forcibly removed from a familiar world to a completely alien and sometimes hostile context? The threat of this mysterious death sentence given to Hmong refugees may be even more frightening than the fictional serial murderer that it inspired. And to go into a little more detail about that young man whose story in particular inspired Wes Craven in A Nightmare on Elm Street, that young man had just night after night had those dreams, and he described it to his family that every time he went to sleep, he dreamed that someone or something was after him. He couldn't give a better description than just someone or something, but he was terrified to go to sleep, and he finally refused to go to sleep. He would trick his family into making them think he was going to bed, but he would have a pot of coffee hidden in his closet. And when they would leave the room, he would guzzle that coffee and stay up all night. But when he finally did go to sleep and his family was all relieved, they heard his screams from the bedroom and they rushed in and they could not wake him, and he actually died in the nightmare. So that's what inspired Wes Craven. In fact, the character Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street does the same thing with a coffee pot. She hides it and drinks it at nighttime so her mom doesn't know she's staying awake to keep away from Freddy. So I thought that was interesting, talking about scary dreams and sleep paralysis, that kind of factored in that one of our beloved 80s horror icons was actually inspired by real life wicked dreams and death dream medical issues.
So, lucid dreaming.
Oh.
What do you know about lucid dreaming?
I don't know. It sounds like something you do when you're lucid. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of in that state of dreaming, but knowing you're dreaming, something like that.
In other words, controlling it.
I don't know how much control. I think you might feel like you've got control, but I've often wondered about that because I just don't know. People think they can control their dreams. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you can control them.
I have actually done that. And in fact, one of my dreams, I got so ticked off that something was going on. I said, this is my dream. I'm going to do it my way. And I actually did what I wanted to. And then there's been times when I've actually made myself wake up and I didn't like a dream. I said, I'm waking myself up. And I did it. I woke up.
You sure didn't just dream you woke yourself up?
No, I did. I woke up, went to the bathroom and everything.
Yeah. Well,
That's the worst kind of lucid dreaming there.
Yeah, don't. If you're dreaming, you go in the bathroom, you better wake up.
The bingo.
Lucid dreaming is when you're conscious during a dream. This typically happens during rapid eye movement, REM sleep, the dream stage of sleep. An estimated 55% of people have had one or more lucid dreams in their lifetime. During a lucid dream, you're aware of your consciousness. That can be a scary freaking thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't
really.
know.
Says the dreamer may gain some amount of control over the dream characters, narrative, and environment. However, this is not actually necessary for a dream to be described as lucid.
Hmm.
So that is, yeah. So I guess that's almost like sleep paralysis, except you're in that state to where you cannot move your body.
Yeah.
You're conscious, but you're froze. Your body hadn't woke up, but your mind has. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we've all had that. I haven't had it. I don't recall ever being afraid. When you ever had anything like that in your stories, were you afraid of what was going on? Was it a fear
Oh,
factor?
he didn't hear my story about the
No, I had to step away.
the hag. Yeah, I was terrified and I couldn't move when I was a little kid. And I kept dreaming about that hag coming out of my closet. When you described that earlier article before I told that, your
Yeah.
description met mine to a perfect T. Mine had the long, scraggly hair, the long nails, but she would tickle with those nails. But she would drag me out of my bed and into the closet.
My
And
God, you got that one right there is more like it, I guess.
yeah.
You got a vivid memory. That must have been very
Oh, I'm not
profound.
going. That went on for a couple of years. I
Oh
was
wow.
terrified in my waking hours. I kept thinking she was hiding in the dark somewhere. I told Catherine because I was so little, I called her hee hee because she made that noise. Hee hee. I say, I tell my mom, hee hee's gonna get us out. She said, no, you're just dreaming that.
I now I've had some very profound dreams, and the first one I can recall was being a 4-year-old child in we lived in a mobile home over in Chelsea, and I don't know if I I don't know if I was dreaming or if it was real, but for some reason the home tilted itself.
Oh,
A tilting home.
A tilting home, and I wound up rolling out of the bunk bed off the top bunk.
Hmm.
I
wow.
probably was dreaming, but it was just a weird thing. And one time I had a dream that about an 18-wheeler wreck. I was going down the interstate and an 18-wheeler wrecked in front of me, and it was one of those gas trucks, and it exploded. It started turning around doing circles, and it exploded on me. That was the
Hmm.
most vivid dream I've ever had.
Very vivid.
Very vivid. Do you guys dream in color?
Yeah.
It is for me. It is very rare that I remember my dreams. I may remember them for briefly when I first wake up, but it's a very occasionally, and I don't know what causes it, but there'll be sometimes it'll be HD quality dreaming, and I can't, and it sticks with me. But most of the time, I know that I was like, ooh, I was dreaming, and I woke up. Um, and yeah, I've had that situation of where you dream that you're peeing in bed, and you wake up.
You can't you can't find a bathroom. That's what happens. And
Oh,
you're
I
trying
can.
your
Oh, I
best to
can find a
find
bathroom.
one.
I'm just sleeping so good, I don't want to get up.
Let me tell you, with me, it's always some pleasant, where I'm in a park somewhere and one of those outdoor, brick restroom houses are there, and I'm going in and it's all empty. I just walk right up and I'm so happy. And then I wake up, oh my gosh, and I got to run. That ticks me off. So
Yeah.
I find a restroom. That's not my problem. My
No,
problem is
I don't
my
have a problem
dreams
finding
fool
a
me.
bathroom. Yeah. No, I'm the same way. Sometimes the dream is like you're just real deep into it. It's not lucid. You're totally into it.
Yeah.
And then in the dream, you recognize that you have to go to the bathroom. But you don't want to interrupt the dream.
I know. And mine's always I can't find the bathroom, and then I realize I gotta go to the restroom. And I go
I,
to
when you surround yourself with so many haunted items like Kevin does, I'm really shocked that he don't have a lot more dreaming type stuff going on.
I've had some weird dreams. I've had. I don't usually dream about the dolls, but there's been times when I've had kids I don't recognize show up in my dream, like they're following me everywhere, or people I've seen, and I wonder that I don't recognize, and I wonder after I wake up, are these some of the spirits that are holding these items,
Ah,
maybe
the
coming into
haunt
my dreams?
coming into
Do
your dreams.
both of you have family members that have passed away that were real close to you.
Or, or,
Do you ever dream about them?
I have dreamed about, and there's a couple of times my grandmother on my mom's side, we called her Meemaw. She died a few years before I was born, so I never knew her in real life. But there's been times, several times, I've dreamed about her. And there's a particular memory I had back in my early 20s. I was living in my first apartment in Homewood. I wasn't even asleep. I woke up. I had been asleep, but I woke up. I knew I was wide awake. I wasn't frozen. I just hadn't moved yet. But something told me that I'm not alone in this room. I look over, and there's an older lady with her hair kind of short but kind of thick on top, with this
Mhm.
black top and dark dress, standing there looking at me. And when I saw her, it was like she didn't expect me to look at her, or she didn't know I could see her. She went, and she turned, and poof, she was gone. And I'm rubbing my eyes. I'm thinking maybe I'm still half asleep. The later that day, I went. It was a Saturday. I went to visit my parents, and my mom had pictures out, old family pictures. And in one of them, there was that woman. And she said, "Well, that's your meat." And I pointed. I said, "No, who is that?" Because it was kind of blurry. I didn't recognize it as my meatball. And she said, "That's your meatball from back in the early 1970s before she passed away." And I think I didn't say nothing aloud because she probably would have told me I was silly or something. But I'm thinking to myself, that's the woman I saw in my apartment when I woke up. And I've actually had her in my dreams a few times. So that
My
was
grandfather um, was on hospice. He was dying of cancer, and I lived in Vestavia at the time, and he lived next door to me, and I was asleep, and he he woke me up, and we knew he was in his last moments. And I was at my house, he was at his house, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm asleep, but I'm not asleep. And he comes and he says, "I came to tell you goodbye." And he leans down and he gives me a hug and kiss, and he does the "I love you this much" sign language. And he talked with he had throat cancer, so he had one of those buzzers that you talk with. And I was wide awake, so I went on, and I told him bye, I loved him. And I went ahead and got dressed and walked over there. And no longer than I gotten over to his house, he took his last breath and was gone. And
Okay, I'm gonna. Go ahead.
that was the first time I'd ever had somebody come tell me bye, um, that was dying.
We're gonna get away from the morbid here 1 second, and I think Catherine shared this with me earlier. So let's.
I was just sleeping all night in my bed. So, guess what happened?
What happened?
Bigfoot came and I heard a growl, and
And then what?
it was just and I jumped off the bench, and I was just scared, and I ran back to my daddy's house, and I was just really scared. So I just ran back here.
Yeah.
I was just right behind the tree, scared. So I was having a great place to hide from
Yep.
Bigfoot.
And then he told you he was sorry?
Yeah. and he ran back to his family. His wife said sorry. Hey, my son, what? You be nice to her, okay? Okay.
So that is the got to be the youngest Bigfoot hunter on the planet.
That was adorable.
He had that story down though, and like, okay.
Yeah.
She did better than some of the adults.
I tell you what, of all the stories I've heard about Bigfoot, now I believe.
Yeah, there you
Most definitely.
All right, we're 1 hour into the show here, Abnormal Alabama. We stream this live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Kevin and Catherine and I usually are here. One of the three of us, or all three of us, or 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And as Meatloaf once said.
I love it.
So anyway, MyHaunted.com, Kevin has got books. If you bought all his books, you'd need a station wagon or a truck to carry them in. So I suggest you order his books. They're good books.
Well, thank you.
And then, of course, mine are on Amazon.com, and I've got my one great book called Dating the Dead, a Spectrophilia. And it goes in line of what we're talking about, except I didn't have to make any stories up like Kevin did. All my stories are true stories.
I didn't make up stories. I didn't make up my stories.
I'm looking for ghosts. Oh my. So yeah, we're talking about dreams, basically sleep paralysis, the old hag, and more. And have you ever tried to feel like you had a need to interpret your dreams? Do they have meaning of any sort? Any? I know that Catherine says they do, but what about you, Kevin?
I don't want to know a lot of those. What they mean. Some of them are just crazy and out there, outlandish, and I just go about my day when I wake up.
So you don't give it. You don't give it. A lot of people do, and I see people asking, "Hey, I had this dream. What does it mean?" And I'll respond. I say, "It means that you had a dream."
You were asleep. That's when you were sleeping.
Oh my goodness! So, but some people are really into that. There are many books written about it, and this guy right over here, right below me, he claims to be a good Christian boy, and in that very Bible is a dream that's interpreted. Remember Nebuchadnezzar and his dream, and
the story of Daniel.
And even before that, there was another dream. The Pharaoh of Egypt had the dream about the 7 years of famine.
Yep.
You know, it was pre-famine. It was 7 years of plenty, and they had to get Joseph from. They had Joseph incarcerated, and it's like, go get this guy out of prison and see if he can interpret my dream for me.
Yeah.
And then he did such a good job of interpreting the dream. The Pharaoh said, "Joseph, I'm going to put you in charge." Boy, what a shift of roles, huh?
From slave boy to king.
So even in the Bible, there were dreams and people interpreting dreams. Now, Kevin, being the good little Christian boy he is, should be tuned in. God may be speaking dreams to him, saying, you know, some great phenomenon.
I'm just a humble servant. That
look, as he shines light.
The halo back here. I'm just a humble sinner, I should say, that only gets by with the grace of God.
There's nothing humble about you. There's no humility.
We're all sinners.
There's no humility where you're sinning. Let me tell you. So here we are, 8:00, folks. Do we have any more stories about dreams and sleep?
Yeah, I've got some stories here.
Well, let's go, Kevin. Come on.
Here's a story about inaudible whispers. My mind woke up and my entire body, including my face, was under the covers and unable to move. I could not see a thing. I worried for a brief moment when I discovered I could not move at all. Then things got scarier. I felt an enormous amount of pressure on my chest. I had the feeling as though the spirit, or whatever it was, had its face only inches away from my own. If this wasn't enough, I heard inaudible whispers in both ears and pounding on the wall adjacent to the bed. I began to cry because that's all I could physically do, and in my mind, I was screaming as loud as I could, but nothing came out. I began to struggle, but I finally burst awake, sat up immediately, still crying. The room was silent. And that, my friends, is a great example of sleep paralysis right there. Yeah, here's a good one. This one involves a creature we've heard of called the Babadook. Babadookish dark mass. Have you heard of the Babadook, Catherine?
I do not remember that one.
The Babadook. I've seen the movie about that. Let me get before I tell the story right quick. I'll pull up the little what is it? The Babadook, also known as Mr. Babadook, is a supernatural, let me pull this up here, supernatural creature that is said to be the embodiment of grief, anxiety, and depression. It is said to haunt those who would be foolish enough to read a pop-up book disguised as a children's book that tells its story. Ooh. But here's the sleep paralysis, the Babadookish thing here. To me, the paralysis always happens in cycles. I always sleep on my side or on my stomach. Recurring experience for me is feeling something evil floating over my bed, slowly coming down towards me. Even though I never see it directly, I somehow always feel or know it has this very wide grin on its face. It may not sound very scary coming to think of it, but the fact that it's always the same damn Babadookish grinning dark mask makes me feel super creeped out. Oh, here's a good one. Face to face with a dead body. Back when I was hooked on FFXI, I was playing way too much while neglecting my sleep. One evening, I went to bed stressed. I then spent a while tossing and turning in bed. Upon turning to my right, I was face to face with the dead body of an old man. He had some kind of scaled reptilian skin. After around 5 seconds, which felt much longer, he started to vanish. Then I could feel some kind of omnipresence outside. It was super early in the morning, so it was turning light. However, the sky and natural light began to dim rapidly as this presence was making its way to my room. I could feel it growing and growing as the window went pitch black. The pure evil darkness began to seep into my room. So I jumped up and got the hell out of there. Splashed cold water over my face to stop all of this onslaught. Here's a creepy one. The man with the knife. I feel I'm awake, but I feel groggy and so incredibly tired it's hard to move. Then I realize that actually I cannot move. Simultaneously, I'm also acutely aware that I am in imminent physical danger. I can see a shadow in the room at the foot of my bed. It is a man with a very large knife. I know I must move to save my life, but I cannot move. I hold my breath as I cannot move. I instead try intensely to be as still as possible. I will my heart to slow down for fear he can even hear that inside my chest. He wouldn't try to stab me if I'm already dead, right? I stay this way, hardly breathing and drifting between awake and asleep again. Eventually, the male shadow is gone, and I finally feel I can let go and drift back safely into sleep. When I do wake up, I'm almost always on my side, not on my back at all. Man, when these people have sleep paralysis, they see some dadgum frightening things in their rooms, don't they?
Hey, Brian, here's one for you here. It's very short. When I was little and going through a phase of paralyzing fear at nighttime, I had this extremely realistic dream. Nothing much happened, but I was lying on my bed, awake, and the room was in almost complete darkness. But I could see the silhouettes of long, angled shards of something, maybe metal, crisscrossing and rising out of the ground, reaching to the ceiling, making this maze of spikes all around. Well, between me and the door, my bed was against the wall. But here's the cherry part bit. I could just about make out the shape of a human, hands lying at the base of the spikes, not moving. And because I was too scared to move, I'm pretty sure I just sat there for a while hoping to fall asleep. So that was the time I dreamt there were corpses in my room.
Wow.
I have one for you.
Go ahead.
Lucy Morgan was an artist. She had spent a week painting in a small country town and decided that the next day she would move on. She would go to a village called Kingston, but that night Lucy Morgan had a strange dream. She dreamed that she was walking up a dark carved staircase and entered a bedroom. It was an ordinary room except for two things. The carpet was made up of large squares that looked like trapdoors, and each of the windows was fastened shut with big nails that stuck up out of the wood. In her dream, Lucy Morgan went to sleep in that bedroom. During the night, a woman with a pale face and black eyes and long black hair came into the room. She leaned over the bed and whispered, "This is an evil place. Flee while you can." When the woman touched her arm to hurry her along, Lucy awakened from her dream with a shriek. She lay awake the rest of the night, trembling. In the morning, she told her landlady that she decided not to go to Kingston after all. "I can't tell you why," she said, "but I just can't bring myself to go there." "Then why don't you go to Dorset?" the landlady said. "It's a pretty town and it isn't too far away." So Lucy Morgan went to Dorset. Someone told her she could find a room in a house at the top of the hill. It was a pleasant looking house, and the landlady there, a plump, motherly woman, was as nice as could be. "Let's look at the room," she said. "I think you will like it." They walked up a dark carved staircase like the one in Lucy's dream. In these old houses, the staircases are always the same. But when the landlady opened the door to the bedroom, it was the room in her dream, with the same carpet that looked like trapdoors and the same windows fastened with big nails. "This is just a coincidence," Lucy told herself. "How do you like it?" the landlady asked. "I'm not sure," she said. "Well, take your time," the landlady said. "I'll bring you some tea while you think about it." Lucy sat on the bed, staring at the trapdoors and the big nails. Soon there was a knock on the door. It was the landlady with the tea, she thought. But it wasn't the landlady. It was the woman with the pale face and the black eyes and the long black hair. Lucy Morgan grabbed her things and fled.
Would you have fled?
Probably not.
Probably.
Hey,
I realize I'm kind of lazy sometimes.
hey, old lady with long black hair. I've had enough of that early in my life. I don't want.
Are you through with it? Is that the end of
Yeah.
it for you?
That's the end.
Okay. So who's next?
Well, I have this weird one here: dream within a dream within a dream. They're calling it sleep paralysis loop.
Okay, so a loop. This has got to be interesting.
Yes, it says, "I was lying in bed at night when I realized my body was rigidly locked in place. It was uncomfortable. I tried moving around, but then my body started rising off the bed. Just a few inches. A terrifying sensation that woke me up. Such relief. It was just a weird dream. Suddenly, I was rigid again, and there was an eerie green glow outside my window. And then I woke up. Well, that was disturbing. I'd somehow been dreaming again with no recollection of having fallen back asleep. Suddenly, I was even more rigidly locked up than before, floating so far off the bed I was almost at the ceiling, and the eerie green glow was brighter than before. I panicked and woke up. This time, I was actually awake. Sleep paralysis within sleep paralysis within sleep paralysis, dreaming of being exactly where I was in my own bed at night, within the same dream, within the same dream.
So that's over and over and over again.
Yeah, you kept waking up. Oh, I'm still dreaming. I'm still dreaming. Yeah, I can't wake up.
I don't know if this counts as a dream, but there is this thing that sometimes happens when I wake up, and as soon as I close my eyes, I start dreaming again, but I'm in my room exactly where I was when I was awake, and I can't get up. Then I wake up, and I'm still there, and things slowly change every time I wake up to become creepier bit by bit. This goes on from about 4 to 7 times before I properly wake up, and it's always very creepy. It reminds me of the game Never Ending Nightmare. Does that count?
Yeah, that's never ending nightmare.
After years of sleep paralysis and the terrifying sensation of claws gently raking your skin, and of the sight of glowing eyes above you, you finally decide to try a different tack. Doctors have told you that it's just your subconscious trying to make sense of what's happening, but you know it's nothing of that sort. With a note taped to the wall above your bed, you lie down and wait for sleep. Sure enough, the jolting panic and rigor sets in, but this time it's different. It speaks to you, and though you cannot use your voice, you find that it can hear your thoughts this time. A connection has been made.
Oh.
Ooh.
The connection has been made. Ooh.
Next story, next story.
Okay, here's one about the little girl. A few reoccurring characters are a banshee in my room screaming at me in sort of demonic multi-voice, a little girl that walks up to me and resets my sleep paralysis and puts me into nightmares. I'm usually up for the rest of the night if I get a visit from either of those two. But I get them quite frequently while stressed, and they tend to stress me out for the next night, so compounds itself. Skeletons walking past my door, dead people staring at me from my window. I don't know why most of mine are centered around dead, rotting things, but they are. I'm a 34-year-old man. I don't know why little ghost girls scare me. Oh, here's the thing about 6 arms. I was sleeping in my bed and woke up paralyzed. I looked at the wall of the hallway where we have a painting. It was slightly oblique. Also, it was a different painting. Then I see my brother's arm that puts the painting in his natural position. At the beginning, it felt like a dream. And then I said to myself, "What the crap is my brother doing here in the middle of the night?" And I realized that I was yet again in a sleep paralysis. And then things got worse. The painting changes, revealing the face of the witch from The Wizard of Oz. She isn't really that scary looking, but holy crap, it was terrifying at that moment. She laughed and she jumped out of the painting and came into my bed. I just closed my eyes in complete terror and felt something like 6 arms grabbing my whole body. It stayed like this for 5 seconds before I managed to free me from that damned nightmare. Wow.
What kind of nightmare?
First.
That damned nightmare.
So what dam were they at?
Maybe there's one up here at Logan Martin. I don't know. That
It's not
damn.
often I hear him curse.
Yeah, so this one got scared here. So, yeah, yeah.
There's a puppy.
All right.
Is that your puppy or is that somebody else?
It's the housebound puppy.
Okay.
I live here at its pleasure.
It's his house. You're just kind of there.
Yeah, well, that's with his permission. Yeah,
That's how it is with my cat. It's her house, even though I pay the mortgage.
that's it. And, yeah, and oh my goodness. So, gosh, we've had some pretty good stories here. We've learned a lot about sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming, not Lucy dreaming, but lucid dreaming.
Lucid.
There is, even though in other parts of the world, there's all kind of interesting stories behind lucid dreamings. In German folklore, the Alp, ALP, is an imp-like creature. And the Alp is described as a small imp-like creature covered in dark brown fur, having pointed ears and horns and long fingernails. Do you get that connection, long fingernails?
No.
The Alp is said to be responsible for sleep paralysis by sitting on a sleeping person's chest, causing them to be unable to breathe. The Alp is also said to travel by riding a ghost-like horse known as the Mara to get to many people during the night. It's kind of like Santa, except not really bringing good gifts. You can keep the Alp at bay by keeping metal horseshoes on your bedpost, keeping a broom under your pillow. Now that don't sound too comfortable, and
No, it
keeping a
doesn't.
mirror on your chest. Okay, let's go over this again. If you want to keep, you're going to be safe during sleep paralysis. Number one, take the metal horseshoes and put on your bedpost. I would assume at the foot end of your bed, and then put a broom under your pillow, and then go to sleep with a mirror on your chest, and then keep your shoes pointed toward the door. I guess that's for a quick getaway. And also to have steel crosses in your room. The Alp is also a shape shifter, being able to transform into cats, it's Kevin's cats, werewolves, dogs, pigs, a white butterfly, or a snake. Go figure. So there's another twist on these sleep paralysis thing here. The Alp, ALP.
Oh.
All right, Kevin, what you got?
All right, this one's the demon from the dream in my room. I am awake and unable to move. My body is tingling all over and I am seriously panicking. I can't move, and I remember just trying to jump out of my body. Just sit up, I told myself. As if I'm suddenly released, I bolt upright and turn on the bed lamp. I see the demon from the dream standing on the side of the bed. Naturally, I panic and scream, wake up my boyfriend who is freaked out. Took me about 2 hours to fall back asleep. And here's another one about a strange bedfellow here. It happened when I was about 12 years old, and I was obsessed with Justin Bieber so much that I had a poster of him next to my bed. That's a nightmare right there. At the time, I fell asleep, sleeping sideways on my bed so that I was facing my mirror, and I could see the poster next to me. I woke up not being able to move, and instead of seeing my Justin Bieber poster, I saw a mangled, decaying man sitting on the edge of my bed staring at me. I was so scared, and all I could do was close my eyes and hope that it went away. I took the poster down after that night. Haha. No, I think what this girl was saying was Justin Bieber's right side.
Oh, that's a nightmare, like you said.
Oh, here's one that I don't know. This might be. That was real cool.
All right.
One of those sleep paralysis demons coming out.
What you got cooking there now?
Oh, this one this one is called the French Kiss. So I can't wait to see what this is. Okay, I was happily sleeping on my back when I woke up, except that I didn't at this point. I hadn't realized yet that it was an SP episode. So I opened my eyes and then I couldn't move, and then it clicked. Wait, I'm not supposed to open my eyes. Immediately after that, a curvy female shadow figure with long hair appeared at the end of my bed. She didn't even have glowy eyes or anything, just a pitch black silhouette, like Mr. Game and Watch, but in 3D and sexy. Surprised but not scared, because as I mentioned, I already knew that this could happen, and in reality, I was safe in my bed in the real world. What a cute demon, I thought. And after a few seconds of staying there, she, without emitting a sound, jumped on me, her shins over my knees, and grabbed my wrists and held them at the sides of my head to prevent me from moving. I'm already paralyzed, I said. What are you doing? And she just French kissed me with tongue. I felt everything. Then I woke up out of pure confusion. I couldn't even let her finish. I was so surprised that I just woke up. I definitely was not expecting that. Well, there's your sleep paralysis from the Twilight Zone there. Well, actually, that's probably the kind of sleep paralysis I would like to have.
So much paranormal stuff happened to me when I was a kid. One that has always stuck was when I was about 3 or 4 years old. Back then, I used to randomly wake up in the middle of the night, usually because I peed in my. Oh no, I didn't say that. In the middle of the night, really often for no known reason. I was still sleeping in my parents' bed at the time, so I would just lay in bed and look around. I swear, every freaking time I'd look at the doorway to the living room, I would see two really tall figures standing there. They looked like the old farm couple in that one painting, except they had hollow eyes and they were thinner. They never really did anything but stare back at me at first. At first. One night was especially weird. I woke up as usual and saw them standing there in front of the doorway again. Only this time, something felt a bit more off than usual. The ceiling fan was on high and the blades were going around fast, so fast that the entire fixture was moving back and forth. I look back at the figures and they have some really dark, creepy grins on their faces. I got scared, buried myself in the blankets, hoping they'd go away. Then I heard just the ceiling fan spinning, but faster somehow. Beads at the end of the switches were tapping against the glass light cover furiously. Peeked up out of the covers, and the two figures were right next to the bed, standing right over me with their ugly smiles. I screamed bloody murder, and the glass cover on the light came off and shattered on the ground. My dad jumped out of bed immediately, turned on the light to see what happened, but the two figures were gone already. I was crying hysterically. It took my mom a long time to calm me down. Ever have that? Do we have another story?
Yeah. The tall, slender figure.
Oh, Slim Man.
In a not so recent episode, I woke up in the middle of the night, unable to move, and saw a tall, slender figure enter my room. So far, it was an occurrence I am familiar with, as I have sleep paralysis on a semi-monthly basis.
Certainly wasn't me because I'm not slender.
But this time, I watched as the figure crawled into a big spoon position with me in my bed, got uncomfortably close to my ear, and whispered, "Go back to sleep." And then I jolted awake. No sign of anyone in my room. And then next we have pressured from behind. I was sleeping on my stomach, which I never do. I felt the paralysis start to begin. Then I kept feeling being held down and hard pressure near my rear end, kind of like a thrusting motion. I kept trying to push it away, but kept feeling more and more pressure. Then I woke up after my mind told me to wake up. After that, I just stayed awake and tried not to think about it. I wonder if that's one of those succubuses or incubuses there.
Hmm.
And then here's another one here. It says, I remember waking up for no reason whatsoever. No loud noise, no touching on my body that makes me wake up, just complete silence. I sat up just thinking to myself that maybe I was thirsty or I had to pee, but something just felt very odd, a feeling I never had before. I can't even explain the feeling, but certain people know the exact feeling I'm talking about. If I had to put it into words, all I would say is pure dread. I felt as if time simply did not exist. I almost felt like the entire world just stopped. It even felt like my clock was frozen in time. I remember sitting up in a daze, and as I sat up, I turned my head to the left of me, looking out of my bedroom doorway. As I peeked through, I saw a man standing there, just staring at me. He had to be around 7 feet tall, not even joking here. This man was not hollow looking at all, no ghostly look. He looked like a human, completely solid, just standing there, staring at me. I remember seeing the detail in the clothes and everything. He had on all black boots, kind of like Doc's, faded blue jeans, and a huge puffy jacket. Very odd since it was the middle of summer, and even at night, it can be warm in California. The jacket had a hood that was over his head. The odd thing is, I could not see his face at all. Even with the dim blue light lighting him up, his face was just black. No facial features or anything, just solid black.
Hmm.
A complete dark void where his face was supposed to be. As I sat there staring at him, I was just frozen, not making a sound. I was washed over with this confusing feeling mixed with fear. I remember us just looking at each other for what seemed like minutes, but was only 30 seconds. As I was looking at him, I just felt terrified. I remember all of a sudden just knocking out. I was staring at him and then just slowly laid back down. Then nothing. Just KO'd instantly. Complete darkness. Oh.
Just after New Year's, I started struggling with sleep paralysis. Really bad. It wasn't totally new to me, but last time a few years back, it was not nearly this bad. Now it's all full on paralysis, dark beings all around me, no control whatsoever, ugly creatures telling me awful things that sometimes would happen. These things would sit on my chest and scratch me up real bad. This lasting for what felt like forever. It started affecting my health because I never slept, and when I did, this happened. And then for no reason, that too, and in case I ever needed, I got a Ouija board. The board itself is nothing special from eBay, straight from a factory of some sort. A new smell, potent, but I was happy with it as it was, just in case. I put it up on the shelf next to my desk where I keep all my crystals, my Wicca books, herb recipes, tarot cards, and sage. Yeah, I'm a witch bitch. But just the night after I got the board, a new paralysis started up. But this time something was different. There was something else, someone else there with me, and all the bad things. She was to my left. I couldn't turn my head, so I didn't see her full on, but I knew she was there, kneeling beside me. It's okay. You're sleeping, but you should probably wake up. They're not nice, honey. Go back. Go inside. Wake up. Breathe with your mouth. Wake up. She spoke softly, as it was hard for her to get the words out, but at the same time, she was so full of not power, but strength. I don't know. It's so hard to put into words. The fact that she knew my name didn't even occur to me at the time. Neither did she know who I was. All I did was focus on her words and trying to do what she told me to do. And then, after some time, I did wake up. I was relieved. I didn't even know what to think. I didn't even dare to hope that this would be a way. There would be a way out of this horrible cycle that I was in. But it kept happening. The third night, she stroked my hair as well, telling me that I was doing great. After that, I'd feel her around, even when I was awake. Sometimes at night, I would hear a soft knock twice from nowhere in particular, and I called out a small "hey," and then came another knock. I'm not really sure, but I think this is her way of saying she's here and it's safe to sleep. I started slowly to enjoy sleep again, as I knew that if paralysis happened, that she would help me out. The paralysis would go for several times a night to maybe 2 or 3 times a week, then nothing for almost a month. She was still around though, knocking, just being around me. I never see her or hear her voice when awake, but I know her presence very, very well by now. And last week, after midnight, I was sitting at my desk, suddenly feeling very, very uncomfortable with the thought of going to sleep, even though I was very tired. I guess I was kind of spaced out. But suddenly, I got this urge to take down the spirit board. I didn't use the pochette or whatever you call it, but I knew where to look.
Shit.
Yeah, it was super weird, but I grabbed a paper and pen and I tried to write as my eyes darted over the board, and it came out with "hey, safe, okay, okay, safe now, okay." And my hand went from the paper to the goodbye, and I just had the warmest feeling inside. Most of that is probably obvious, but the EM is the start of my name. I was still a little, I don't know, it was a weird night, and I went to sleep with mixed feelings, and sure enough, I woke to paralysis. A heavy panic started to set in. Then I heard her voice again, much stronger. Her voice self assured, young, and full of life. Okay, I have an idea. Don't be scared. Just listen to me now. One, two, three. At the last word, she slammed her hands together. Or I'm guessing she did. I still couldn't see her. But I woke up so freaking fast. That's the last time I've ever had paralysis or stressful sleep. It's only been about a week, but it's like a new life for me. I still don't know who she is, but I know she's a friend. And there is that story.
Ah, creepy.
Creepy, but that was a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just read this
Oh,
creepy comic about sleep paralysis, so I felt compelled to do a little research on the internet on the subject. And I remembered something from when I was younger. I had this one instance of sleep paralysis when I was very, very little. However, usually sleep paralysis seems to be a consistent problem in people. It generally starts in their teenage years. My sleep paralysis lasted for a solid 8 hours. Apparently, sleep paralysis is supposed to only last a few seconds to a couple of minutes. But I know it was sleep paralysis because I couldn't move and I was hallucinating. There was this man in my bedroom standing behind me, and I was so gripped with fear that I just could not move. I think that was the worst night of my life. I don't know why I was prepared to share this, but I feel like you needed to know. What about Kevin? Does he have a?
Oh,
Does he have something
yeah.
to share?
I have a zombie paralysis story. Ooh. It's not usually scary for me. Usually I hear a really loud buzzing sound and my head feels like it's vibrating. I had a weird sleep paralysis dream where I got infected with a zombie virus and had to get killed to save humanity. So I had to lay down in a chamber and they turned on a machine that blasted radiation waves at my body. I couldn't move and felt this strange but somewhat nice force static feeling. And the whole time I was thinking, this doesn't feel very painful for being radiated and burned alive. Man, sleep paralysis can give you some wacko dreams, can't
Hey, has anybody had this very frustrating sleep paralysis experience where you're positive that you're moving, but when you look at your limbs, you realize you haven't moved at all? So last night I fell asleep with my computer on my lap, and when I woke up, I reached up to close it, except my arm did not reach up to close it. So I reach up again, but my arm just sat there like a moron, which led me to wildly flailing my ghost arm around, mentally screaming, "Why are you not doing what my brain is telling me to do? Telling you to do?" Have you had an experience like that where you think you're moving and you're not moving?
I think I might have. Usually my sleep is always I've had dreams where I'm trying to move and it's slow, and so all of a sudden I lose gravity and I start floating. What the hell's going on? I try to run from something usually.
You must have been sucking on some helium or something.
I don't think so. I can't do helium voices too good.
I can't either.
Here's one that's the title is pretty interesting. The Naked Murderer. Let's see what this one's about.
The what? Wait a minute. What?
The Naked Murderer.
Oh, God. Okay.
One day I woke up in the middle of the night and I immediately realized that I could not move. I could not talk either, and quickly realized that I was experiencing sleep paralysis. That's when I saw a person standing in the corner of my room. I got really excited, not scared, just happy to finally experience it. At some point, I woke up and thought about how cool it was, so I tried doing it again. I was really tired, and I did, but I managed to get sleep paralysis another time. Only this time I kept slipping into a normal dream, if there is such a thing, and back into sleep paralysis. I dreamed about a crazy naked murderer breaking into our house. And when I was back in sleep paralysis, I think I saw the murderer from my dream in the corner of my eye. Still, I was happy to experience it all. I woke up again and tried getting into sleep paralysis again. Managed to do it, and this time I did actually get scared. I remember something I had read a few years ago about sleep paralysis, saying that a lot of people see the Hat Man standing in their room. I don't know why, but the thought of this really frightened me, and I woke right back up from the paralysis. Once I was awake again, I got really mad at myself for not just staying in paralysis, but I thought that I would just go back one more time. And that's the end of that story. I didn't think you could control sleep paralysis.
Well, I guess it can tie in with lucid dreaming, and you are in that lucid state to where you know you're dreaming, but you can't move. You understand? So
Yeah.
I've experienced that a couple of times that I remember, and you can kind of control it, but your mind is waking up, but your body's not, and you still have these old hag hanging around you. Have you ever woke yourself up screaming or talking to somebody, or
I have.
Yes.
I
tell
woke
us?
up.
Yeah.
I woke up cursing. I did. I was cursing a lady out, and I woke up in the middle of it. I was living in that townhome in Inverness. I was living at that townhome in Inverness, and I hadn't gotten into haunted collecting yet, so I didn't have anything like that in my house. But I was dreaming I was on a bus, and this older woman was just driving me crazy. And I probably had a bad experience with a claimant that day, maybe that made me have that dream. But I deal with people every day on the phone with their claims. But she just kept saying she was not going to let me off that bus until I'm not going to let you off until you do that. I can't remember what it was. I just know I wanted to get off the bus, and she would not move her big fat butt. And she was huge. She was big. She was blocking the whole aisle. And I
So she
finally
was, wait a minute, what? She's bigger than you?
hey, shut up. So I won't dream I'm cussing you out in a minute. So I finally told her, I said, look, you, I'll go ahead and say it. I said, look, you bitch, if you don't get your fat, and I woke up screaming, get out of my way. And then I looked around my dark bedroom, and I wondered if the guy next door to me, because those townhomes have thin walls, I wondered did I wake him up over there, because I was yelling out. And
Oh gosh. It's just in your Kevin
Oh Lord.
that's what I said. Look, you bitch! If you don't get your fat son down, I can't say the rest of the words. I'll say that one, but I was yelling at cuss words, waking up.
We know what you got inside of you now.
Hey,
So what about the?
nothing. I got nothing evil inside this body.
Oh,
Look at that halo.
so what about the lady in dark there? She had one of those.
The lady in dark.
Hello.
No. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get over Kevin cussing. Yes, I have had those. I have woke people up in the house screaming and yelling that something was attacking me, and I've hit people before. I don't know you, Kevin. You don't have kids, but Elizabeth has this bad habit. She's done it since she was a little bitty thing. She would come in the bedroom and I'd be asleep, and she wouldn't say anything. She would just stand over me and watch me sleep. Freaks me out every time. She still does it to this day. She sleepwalks and does it. And
I used to sleepwalk.
I sleepwalk too. I know you've heard the stories of me sleepwalking.
Yeah, I went through a stage where I did a lot of sleepwalking, and I'd wake up like in the living room or some crap, and it was the same period of time I think we go through as we're maybe going through puberty or something that I had nosebleeds. Did y'all have nosebleeds too?
I still get nosebleeds.
Yeah.
Yep.
And but I did. I had a lot of sleepwalking going on, and that's kind of a freaky thing. Wake up someplace where it wasn't where you went to sleep.
Wake up at the store.
Well, that's I haven't.
Try
Well,
that one day.
I guess I had more security around me than you did.
Well, I was in my mid-20s and I lived in Vestavia, and I'd walked myself to the convenience store about 3 or 4 blocks away.
Well, I've
And
never.
woke up.
I don't think I've ever had it as an adult. I don't recall ever having it as an adult. What about you, Kevin? You ever sleepwalk?
No, I haven't done that yet. I have had what she started out talking about. There's a name for it called night terrors, where you wake up thrashing or hit somebody in your sleep. And a lot of times you don't know you have it unless you have a spouse or significant other that sleeps with you and you punch them or whatever, or if you have a pet, like in my case, I had my cat laying next to me on the sofa. I actually fell asleep late one night watching TV, and I dreamed I was walking outside, and while I was asleep, my cat decided she's gonna climb up my arm, I guess, to lay on my shoulder or whatever, because I'm back on that sofa, you know. But when she climbed up my arm in my dream, I felt it and I saw a creature, ugly old spider creature crawling up my arm. So I yelled and I jumped and slung my arm. And when I did, I woke up at that moment. I see my cat go flying. Yay! She goes flying through the air because I slung her. And she landed on the side of the sofa. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm sorry. But she learned that then when I'm asleep, don't climb on Daddy when he's asleep. She can't creep out on that sofa looking at me.
Dreaming.
We had a bunch of bad storms.
Go ahead.
We had a bunch of bad storms last night, and Lakota jumped up on the bed with me, and I'd just fallen asleep and scared the crap out of me. She's a big old husky, and you talking about kicking her? Woo! Because I didn't realize she was even in there, and but yeah, could you imagine big husky flying across the room?
I can't imagine a little husky. I've had you know, dream that you're falling and you wake up right before you hit wherever you're landing.
Yep.
That seems to be huh?
That usually means that you're gonna die in your sleep. Something about dying in your sleep like that. It means you're going to live for a little while longer or something to that nature. I can't remember exactly what it was.
It means you're going to live till you hit the ground.
I'll have to look it up.
Did y'all hear
I'll have
that?
to look it up.
Did y'all ever hear that true story about the man that you were talking about sleepwalking? You went to the store. There's actually a real incident out there. I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s, where this man sleepwalked so bad that one night he sleepwalked out of his house, I don't know how many miles, to his in-laws' house, killed them in their bed, sleepwalked back, and went back to bed, had woke up with their blood all over him. And there was he went on trial. I think it's one of those, it might have been the first or maybe only trial where they found a man innocent because he was sleepwalking. He didn't mean to kill him. I mean, there's a movie about it. I think it's called The Sleepwalker Killings or something like that. I mean, that scared the fire out of me because that can happen. I mean, somebody just sleepwalk right in your house and kill you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've heard. I've never had, like I said, I went through a stage somewhere around puberty that I did a lot of sleepwalking, but I never left the house, and but it was really strange even at that point. Sleep is a very interesting thing, you know, and to go back to our Christian friend down there in the Bible, even Jesus compared death to sleep, and the kind of reference to the Bible. But my God, sleep paralysis, you wake up and your body's froze, and weird things are happening in the room with you. Wake up in a cold sweat. Have you woke up just drenched with sweat?
Yeah, but usually I'm just sweating because it's hot under the cover.
No, I've had a situation where our dream was so intense and something going on that it was a very, I can't remember them now. Sometimes I can stick with a dream for a while, but they never stick with me for a long time. Even I don't know if I have nightmares. I know what was mentioned earlier. I used to have very vivid dreams about my family that had all passed away. I don't anymore, but it used to be a pretty common thing. Very vivid and not negative, but still very shaking because they're dead. And these dreams were so realistic, and you were having visits from your family, so to speak. I don't recall in my life having the old hag or that kind of scary stuff happening in my dream. Now, if I keep looking at Kevin's face, I'm sure I'll have some kind of nightmare.
Oh.
I have a reoccurring dream about my grandfather and my grandmother, and they're in their caskets, but they're standing beside me, and like
Are they
they're
looking at? Are they standing there looking at their own bodies?
yes, and they're all shriveled up like they've been dead for a while in the
Okay.
casket,
They have
and
been,
we
haven't
yes, they've been dead for a long time.
they? Yeah.
My grandfather, I think about 20 years now, and my nana
Mhm.
probably about 12 years, I guess. 11, 12 years. But it's really weird that I'm standing there and we like open the casket. They're standing with me and we open the casket and they're there laid out in the casket and they're shriveled up like they've been rotting, whatever corpses do.
And
And
corpses do what corpses do.
that's what corpses do.
Yeah, they do what corpses do.
Yep. And I think about all these hag things and when back in the old days, when they would study bodies and stuff, and when people died, they used to say that their fingernails grew after
Mhm.
you died, but it was actually the skin retracting from the
You lose your
fingernail.
fluid. You lose your fluids, and yeah.
I think that maybe some of that comes from people hearing that tale, maybe the long fingernails, maybe hearing stories about that. Just some thoughts popping into my head.
I've been experiencing sleep paralysis intermediately for almost a decade. It's like I'm stuck somewhere between asleep and awake. I'm usually aware that I'm in this state, and I fight hard to try and move, but I'm stuck. I have even attempted to call out to my roommates' families for help, but I can't. I'm usually in a state of panic that I can't describe. I'm usually afraid that I'll be stuck this way forever. Sometimes my paralysis is accompanied by terrifying dreams or visions, or whatever you prefer to call them. I've seen the figure of a man standing in the corner of my room, facing away from me. I've seen a woman crawl. She appeared to move as though she didn't have any bones, so it was much more liquid and floppy than the usual person crawling out of my wardrobe. But the one that bothers me the most is one that I've had the most often. About once a month for the last 2 years, give or take, I have a reoccurring sleep paralysis episode involving this same dream vision. For reference, I usually sleep on my side, facing away from my door and closet. During this reoccurring episode, I hear whispers from behind me that sound like they're coming from the closet. The voice is very pitched from high to deep, but I can never tell what any of them are saying. I feel up with panic regardless. I have a impending sense of doom, and I usually begin fighting my own body at this point, desperately trying to move. Around this time, as I'm struggling to gain control of my body, I feel a pressure on my mattress as if someone is in bed with me. I'll then hear a soft female voice whisper, "Get up, he's coming." Right around this time, I'll snap out of it. I've only spoken to a few people about it, but this is what they believe is happening. One voice is my guardian angel or otherwise good entity trying to protect me from a negative entity, and I am somehow traveling to another plane during my sleep without consciously trying to, and it's just a regular sleep paralysis phenomenon.
Phenomena.
What do you think about
Phenomena.
phenomena?
I need to find and share that YouTube video with it. There's a newscaster that was having trouble saying the word phenomena. He was getting laughed at.
Phenomena. Last night I had my first sleep paralysis, and my God, was that junk scary. It started off as just a weird scene, I'm like, why can I see myself? Wait, I can see out the back of my head. I sleep in only one position, on my stomach, with one leg bent and an arm under my pillow. So after I look around, I realize what was happening. I had seen it in videos. I'm having sleep paralysis. Then, just as I start to panic, a dark figure of a girl is at the end of my bed, staring at me. Once I see her, my heart stops and I freeze. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. Then she disappeared, and something was on the wall next to me, and it was just as I saw it that I yanked myself out of it. Gosh, I've never thought it happened to me at such a young age. I thought it only happened to older people like adults, but do I have the mentality of a 27-year-old? So maybe that's why it happened. And I looked up reasons, and one was exhausted and tired. And that was it.
Wow.
Scary, spooky, interesting. And I guess it's something we all at one time or the other have experienced. And what do we have here? Nicotine patches give me the most vivid dreams I've ever had. Well, I've never used a nicotine patch, so I don't have anything to to compare that to. What about you guys? Any?
Nope.
I do have that. I was when I had the truck explosion dream, I was on that make you quit smoking pill. I can't think of the name of it.
It's called Make You Quit Smoking Pill.
That's right.
So you had weird dreams because of it?
Yep, I did. Did I ever tell you about the dream about when I went to the dentist and I was having a wisdom tooth pulled?
That's called a nightmare. That's not a dream.
Well, I went to the dentist to have this tooth pulled because it was time for me to have a wisdom tooth pulled out. And I dreamed that I was a giant tooth being chased around by a stick figure nurse holding a shot, like the old fashioned shots that have the big loops on it. And the doctor was holding hemostats. But as I was telling the story, I said roach clips, and my mother looked at me like, "How do you know what roach clips are?"
Oh my goodness. Well,
Mother and Mark are messaging me. They're watching the show tonight.
okay.
So thought mom would have fun with that one.
Well, it's you don't have to. What life presents to you, you really don't have to really imagine a lot of stuff because a lot of stuff it just comes to you. And if you think about what we've talked about tonight, and you go back in history and the things that we have surmised due to our imaginations of what we don't understand, there may be, and some people claim there are legitimate reasons for sleep paralysis that have nothing to do with real people and real entities. Um, but we go back through time, and there's you're left to wonder how much of this stuff is real versus how much of it is just from imagination and so forth. Because some of this stuff is very vivid. It's like seeing a UFO.
Yeah.
Some people claim they're abducted by aliens, and they have been put through these regressions for hypnosis and whatnot. The two guys in Mississippi that share the exact same story, and they've stuck by that story for all these decades later for their alien abduction thing. And I can look at Kevin and see that clearly he was abducted at some point in time in his life. I think they did a dramatic anal probe on him.
You're the one with a hair missing. You probably whacked it off doing
But you know what? Every time I see you, yours keeps going back. Is that because you keep pulling it out?
Yeah, you make me pull it out.
It's very obvious that Kevin loves me, folks. Well, it's 9 o'clock. We spent the 2 hours. Thanks for everybody for joining in. This will be archived on all our platforms. And thank you guys for being here tonight. Everybody have a wonderful, blessed evening. And may the good Lord bring many wonderful rains of good things down upon the bald spot on your head, Kevin.
that big chrome dome on yours.
I don't think we know what we're going to talk about next week, but we will talk about something for sure, right?
Yeah. We'll talk about it. We'll just talk about you and your strange behavior over there.
Nothing more spooky than this. All right, folks. Peace and love.
Peace out.